Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the MDLX Transformers Megatron from Threezero. This is a stylized take on the classic villain from Transformers, not based on any particular version, though I guess all versions take some inspiration from G1. He still has the black skirt and the black gun panels on his boots, that kind of thing, and the big cannon on the arm, so a very, very stylized take of what I guess would be G1 Megatron, and certainly not in line with like the IDW comics or anything like that. I did review the Optimus Prime from this not that long ago, and I wanted to get it out to show you guys, but I can't freaking find it. I don't know where it is. It's in some box somewhere, I guess, and I'm not looking in the right boxes, so sorry, but I did review that. It'll be up there in the corner, and if you want to just check height comparisons, it's why I do a measurement for everything I review. You can always just compare the height measurements and you'll have at least an idea. So sorry about that, but I can't find it. So anyway, this figure is pretty darn cool. It's a little bit expensive, but not really by today's standards. We're going to get into all of that though, so let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. Okay, before we do anything else, let's take a look at my package. It is just a standard box with a smaller window, but you do get the figure in that window, so that's fine, and it does have some nice artwork on the side. Basically, it's that figure stylized. It might even be a photo of it that's just been really heavily stylized in Photoshop with some filters and things. Kind of looks that way. It looks nice. I like the overall aesthetic on the side. More artwork and a crazy Threezero sticker, if you like that kind of stuff. And then on the back, more artwork and then some photos of the figure just to show a little bit of the options for the gun situation. We'll get into that. And then again on this side, a little bit more. It's all basically the same stuff. Not a bad package. I like it. And since I keep packages for import figures or things of this nature, I'm happy that it's decent. All right, so let's go ahead and do our height measurement before we do our question of the day, just so I don't forget. He's about 18.5 centimeters to the top of his head. That's going to be roughly, let's just call it 7 3/8. That's close enough. Here he is up against a Marvel Legends Darwin. He definitely has some size to him, but he's not huge. Okay, and so the price point on this guy is $80. That's what I paid at Big Bad Toy Store. I think that's pretty much the standard going rate. If it's off, it could be like $5. I don't know. Sometimes Big Bad Toy Store is a little bit more. Sometimes it's not. I don't know. I'm just going by the $80. And just like Optimus, I think for today's market, this is well worth it. Well worth it. I mean, you could be paying upwards of $50 for some Marvel Legends things like Hawkeye with the Sky Cycle, for instance. And it doesn't count that they get discounted a lot because that's still MSRP. You know, for $80, you're getting quite a figure here, I do think, just based on my preliminary inspections. We'll see by the end of the review if I still feel that way. But okay, let's do a quick question of the day. I ask this one all the time, so I'm going to ask this, but then another one, just because I know different people watch different videos. If you're a Transformers fan, or even if you're not, how do you feel about Transformers figures that don't transform? Are you okay with it if they look awesome and they're stylized and they make for a really good action figure? Or do you want it to transform no matter what? Even if that inhibits posability and aesthetics? For me personally, I like the idea of Transformers, and obviously that was the gimmick that made the whole franchise work, but if I can get really good action figures like these guys, or the Flame Toys, or any action figure of Transformers really, I'm okay with having them just be Transformers, just be action figures, because I don't really need a toy gun, or a toy car, or a toy dinosaur, or whatever. I want the character who is actually the character. So for me, I'm all about this. Okay, and then the second question of the day, I've only asked this maybe once or twice, but I'm curious. How do you guys feel about the stylization figures, like the ones that are very heavily stylized? For me personally, obviously it comes down to kind of a subjective thing if it looks good to me or not, but I love the idea of it. And in fact, I think most of them have been really good, like this guy, Optimus, the Flame Toys Optimus. I love the whole branching out rather than just having the really basic G1 type looks. So, okay, there we go. Okay, let's get into the aesthetic on this guy. First impression is I love it. Not from a stylization standpoint, because that's really subjective, though I do love that too. It's just, there's no point in me talking about that because you're going to like it or you're not. I think it's close enough to the original character that it's definitely fine. It's not even really that stylized. They just added a whole bunch of details. So I think that's good. But anyway, as far as the actual execution of it, I love it, personally and as an objective reviewer. It is wonderful. The thing that sells me on this the most, you probably can't tell from that distance. Let me zoom in a little bit. All over the entire figure, there's a wash of like kind of a brownish, greenish, brownish, blackish color, and it looks kind of like a nice patina. It's very subtle. You can see it along the panels very, very subtly, but it brings the figure to life so well. It would have been easy for them to just do black, and that would have been fine. It probably would have looked all right, but this wash that they did stands out because it's a little bit of extra character. It kind of makes him look like he's been around for a while, and it looks really nice. And on top of it, or more accurately, underneath that wash, there is a ton of detail just everywhere. The sculpting is super sharp. The painting is super sharp. Looks like there's a scratch on the chest a little bit for his chest logo. I didn't see that until I looked at it in camera because it's very small. But there's just detail everywhere on this, around the black parts on his skirt armor. There's battle damage, like dry brushing. Basically everywhere there's dark paint, there's dry brushing around the edges, even on the red. Looks really nice. This thing is clean. The face, I like more, I think, than the Optimus face. I don't really like the upswept eyes as much, but I think it's fine. It's a really nice looking head sculpt. Very clean sculpt. And then on the legs, I really like the way they did the legs. A little bit of gold in there. More red on the inside. Looks nice. Yeah, I think they really nailed the execution on this guy. Paint job is wonderful. I'm willing to bet there's not a whole lot of bare plastic on this guy. Everything appears to be painted, or they just did a really good job molding the plastic, but I'm thinking most of it has paint on it. Maybe not like down here. Maybe these pieces don't, other than the dry brushing. But yeah, this thing looks wonderful, and it looks just as good from the back. Of course, there's less going on the back because it's his back, but there's still a lot of detail. Like, they didn't just make it blank panels and not paint it. It looks really good. I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I do, but I do. I might even like it more than Optimus. Okay, so aesthetically speaking, I think they nailed it. In every way. All the way around, this thing is gorgeous. Wonderful. A 9.9 out of 10 for the aesthetic. It is wonderful. As for accessories, we'll start with the easy stuff. He comes with 2 fist hands on him in the package, and you get 1 pointing finger hand, 2 clenchy hands, and then 1 grippy hand. Alright, and then you only get 1 other accessory, which is his arm cannon / back cannon. So, you have the back cannon, it pegs onto his back like that. We'll pop that off. Okay, then you also have his arm cannon, which looks like the traditional arm cannon for the most part. And let me pop that off. And the cool thing about this is, see that hole in the front there? You can take this off, and you can put that in there. And so now you've got an even longer arm cannon with that. Or, you can take that off there, and you can take that off there, and you can add this to this piece. So you've got a smaller cannon. Or you can leave it just like this. Or you can you mix these? You can technically, obviously, but that doesn't do anything. So you have some options, is all I'm saying. It's pretty nice the way they've done it. It doesn't light up or anything. It would have been cool if it did, because lights are awesome, but also not super practical. For me personally, I'm gonna just leave it like this. Looks like the gun scope, and then leave this on his back with the little attachment. But if you want the extra length, I know some of you guys might be interested in that, you can do that. And you have some options. So I like that. It's very nicely detailed. Doesn't do anything. There's no gimmick other than the interchangeability. So that's up to you if you like that. But I think it's definitely good enough. Lights are cool, but not necessary. I'm going to go 8 out of 10. He's still a little bit light on accessories, I think. It's still good, but you know, maybe a blast effect or an alternate head or something. I don't know for sure. I thought Optimus had a fair amount of accessories. Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly. Again, review is up there. Okay, so let's talk about the articulation. This figure is a great example of how you don't need to go crazy with joints to make good functional articulation. Most of this guy is on basic hinging or ball sockets. For the head, it does pop off a little bit too easily. I think they could have tweaked those tolerances a little bit, but he's got a little tiny double ball peg in the top of the head, on top of the neck, and then a ball peg at the bottom of the neck. So the neck can move around pretty well. The head can too, but it does pop off too easily. So it's a little bit annoying, but you're gonna have plenty of posability for this guy, so no problem there. For the shoulders, cool thing I didn't mention is there's a lot of die cast for the ball sockets. I don't know if every ball peg is a die cast piece, but I think they are. And the sockets are palm as far as I can tell. And die cast on palm makes for a wonderful joint. A palm is a type of plastic. And so you have the metal ball in there and then the plastic joint, and you can just move the arm around all over the place. I think it might actually be a double. Yeah, I think it is. Try not to move the butterfly joint as I do it, but we'll start with that, I guess. You get the butterfly joint. You can see that pulls out of the torso, so that's pretty cool. But then that little shiny bit is the hint of ball peg you get to see, and then this black plastic here is the socket. And you can move the arm around on that as if it's a butterfly very nicely. And of course you get your full rotation. You can lean it in different directions too. So really good joint right there. Just a ball socket, but plenty of range. Shoulder pad has a hinge on it so you can raise the arm all the way out to the side. No problem at all. Really basic articulation, just a standard hinge up there. Plenty of range on that. Giving that ball joint in there, or having that ball joint in there, is just really nice. So you can also tuck the shoulders in nice and tight if you want to, or you can pull them out a little bit farther if you want. Doesn't look great in a neutral, but definitely helpful for posing. And then, like I said, you get that butterfly as well. So pretty awesome there. You get your bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, really good range. Be careful on which ones you go first, because you could scratch paint, but you can definitely get good range out of that elbow, and it looks nice all the way around. And then for the wrists, ball pegs. Not going to do a whole lot with the wrists on this guy, but they're there. All right, for the torso, he does lean back a little bit. Not too much, just exposes his belly a little bit. That's okay, but then he leans forward really nicely. Like as far as he could possibly go, and it's not even gappy or anything, so that's pretty nice. Part of the reason it's not gappy is he can't lean back that far, but still looks good, and he leans forward really nicely, so that's wonderful. Side to side, unless mine's just stuck, it doesn't have much range at all. You can see it's just a little bit off axis there. Yeah, it doesn't seem to have much range, but it is there, and that's okay. It does technically have rotation at the top, not much, but it's there. Then you get rotation at the waist, which is the one you're going to want to use the most. So pretty good so far. Not like incredible. He's not Spider-Man, but poses better than most Spider-Man figures so far. For all of his skirt armor, it's just very tiny ball pegs. So they're going to pop off as you're playing with them, for sure. But they just pop right back on. I don't feel any danger that they're going to break unless you're being a real goon with your figure. So those are all on ball pegs. They can get out of the way pretty well. There we go again. I want to leave them on though so that I can show you the range of the hips as reasonably as I can. Okay, so hips are also on. See that sparkle? That's metal. We have double ball pegs in there for each hip. So you get really good range. They're not as tight as they could be on the inner piece, but they're not loose at all. They just could be a little bit tighter, so that's okay. And they're pretty tight here, but you get pretty nice range. So that's with them all the way up, and then if you want, you can bring them down, and that'll make Megatron taller and bring his legs closer together. And some of you might like that look. I'm not loving it because it looks a little bit too stretched out if you ask me, but you have that option. But anyway, you have good range on there also because of the ball pegs. You can get his legs all the way out to perfect splits. And like I said, not loose, just could be tighter. And his legs are fairly heavy, so good range there. Going back, of course, you can see already, he's basically unlimited range going all the way back. And then going forward, we do have some limitation because of the skirt armor. But if you bring that leg all the way down, it works kind of like a drop-down ball peg, the hinge ball peg, but it's pretty good range. And this is definitely better than the hinge, as long as you make sure you have those tight tolerances. And that's really hard to do if you're not using die-cast on palm, or palm on die-cast, however you want to word it. If you're just using plastics, that's going to end up being a pretty loose joint, probably, but this, they didn't, so they did it and it worked. All right, thigh swivel, full-on thigh swivel, that's great. For the knee, this piece is a little bit of just a flappy piece, and that hides the joint nicely, so we'll do the joint at the bottom first. You get better than 90 degrees just using the bottom joint, and then using the top joint, just better than 90 degrees, and if you use them both together, you can do it. He can kick himself in the back. Really good range, really good functionality, and it's not even an ugly joint. Like, it's a little boxy, and it's a Transformer figure, of course, but that is a nice looking knee joint. There's no extra anywhere, it's just exactly what needs to be there to make it functional. Whoever designed these really put some time into doing it properly. I can appreciate that so much. So the knees are good. Like I said, that's a little flexible piece. And then for the ankles, it's not going to be easy for me to show you, but inside here there's a big double ball peg, so the foot can actually shift side to side because of that. And because of that, you can get your ankle rocker to go pretty far. It's not crazy, but it's definitely good enough given these giant boots of his. And then because of that, you can also shift this piece, not the most useful. We'll get to that in a second. But you can shift his foot pretty far back and wiggle it forward to try to give yourself a lean, which doesn't work very well. But he does have a toe hinge that gives you a little bit more. Not getting that much vertical movement on the ankle though. Going that way, going this way, it's a little bit better. You can bring the foot back that far. This piece, as far as I can tell, unfortunately, it is connected to this piece. And it's connected over here on a hinge, not a ball peg. And it doesn't have that much range, so it's kind of annoying to use, but it's not that big of a deal because his feet don't have that much range anyway. But it's definitely better looking than Optimus's, but it doesn't have great range, neither did his. I think the ankles could be a little bit more refined, but they definitely still work, and if you're not putting them in splits and stuff, you should be fine. But that big double ball peg in there really gets the job done. And that's it for the articulation. It's fairly basic in that it's just a bunch of sockets, ball sockets, and hinges, but it works, and they use the right materials, which obviously not every figure can have die cast in it, but it's just really, really well executed. Whoever did this cared about what they were doing, and they did a good job. I'm going to give the articulation on this guy a 9 out of 10. It's really, really good. I'd like to see the ankles refined a little bit, maybe the torso. I think there's a lot more room in there to get him leaning side to side, and maybe the front flaps could have as much range as the back flaps in order to give him better range going forward. But again, 9 out of 10. It's still really, really good. All right, and now it's time for the final verdict for this guy. I think this is easily going to be a contender for top figure of the year. I haven't even started working on that list yet, but this figure is darn good. It's really, really good. So I'm gonna say, whether you're a Transformers fan or not, if you don't mind collecting something you don't have a huge interest in, this is something you should seriously consider. There aren't too many figures these days where you can spend 80 bucks and feel like you really spent or really got your money's worth. This one you do. I'm gonna give this guy an overall rating of 9.5 out of 10. Wonderful figure, wonderfully executed. Not perfect, you know, could be better in a few places, but still, damn nice purchase. Very happy to have it, and I think you guys will be too. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, and if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.